It's Wednesday, August 28th. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. The National Works Agency, NWA, says major roads in the corporate area will be cleared in time to facilitate the smooth flow of traffic when the new school year begins on Monday. E.G. Hunter, Chief Executive Officer of the NWA, said this should be completed by Sunday. Meanwhile, the NWA has responded to complaints from motorists about the raised manhole covers on rehabilitated roads in the corporate area. He suggested that the authorities at least paint the manhole covers so that they're more clearly seen by motorists who would otherwise have to swerve last minute to avoid them. The government is eyeing the eastern end of the island for development and is inviting investors to get in on the action. This from Prime Minister Andrew Holness as he signed off on a U.S. $195 million road construction project under the South Coast Highway Improvement Project, SHIP, which is slated to begin by the end of September. This initial segment of the project will entail the rehabilitation of the 14-kilometer stretch of roadway from Harbour View in Kingston to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas by China Harbour Engineering Company Limited Czech through a 3-year contract.
We have historically pushed development to the west. So you have Kingston, we have pushed into Portmore, we're now pushing into Clarendon. We need now to push the development to the east. So once we put down the 14-kilometer dual carriageway, which will take us close to Morant Bay from Harbour View, we also want to follow immediately behind that with housing. Now, we're not just putting down the roads. We are putting in the necessary infrastructure for water and telecommunications and, where possible and necessary, sewage.
He noted that once the rehabilitation of the dual carriage is completed, there are plans to begin the development of housing solutions in the area.
So once we have put that down, all the lands in that area become viable for development. So the government is going to be moving with the NHT and the National Housing Agency to start developments on lands that we own there or have intentions on. And we call on developers to start looking now to the east.
Other signatories to the deal were country manager for Czech Dangran Bai, along with representatives from Alpart Construction and Haulage Company Limited, Construction Solutions Limited, and YP Seaton and Associates. SHIP is part of the government's strategic development plan by connecting Negril, Westmoreland, and Port Antonio, Portland via a modern highway system. To facilitate the works, Czech has subcontracted this component of the project to 3 local contractors. Uncertainty over the future of bauxite alumina plant Gisco Alpart and the Petrojam oil refinery are casting a shadow over Jamaica's growth projections. Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, Pbcj, Dr. Wayne Henry, says these and other factors should stem the country's growth potential for the current year. He was giving a quarterly report on Monday. As the government remains tight-lipped about the future of Alpart, Dr. Henry says this could impact growth. Mining Minister Robert Montague stated earlier this month that negotiations with Alpart's owner Gisco are at a delicate stage. The reopening of the plant and the subsequent shipments of alumina contributed significantly to recent gains in GDP. Gisco has already laid off hundreds of temporary workers in a community that is heavily reliant on the plant for its economic survival. Effective today, Wednesday, the Bank of Jamaica will again lower its policy interest rates by 25 basis points to 0.5%. The policy interest rate represents the interest rate offered by the central bank on overnight placements. The last 8 quarters have seen a steady downward trend of the rate, being reduced at least once since the start of the year. In a news release Tuesday, the BOJ said the reduction, quote, is intended to stimulate a faster expansion in private sector credit, which should lead to higher economic activity consistent with the inflation target. End quote. The central bank projects inflation to average 4.3% over the next 8 quarters, within the inflation target of 4.0% to 6.0%. Over the medium term, the bank's forecast is for inflation to gradually approach the midpoint of the BOJ's target, albeit at a slower pace than previously expected. This reduction in the policy rate will support inflation returning more quickly to the center of the target. Ahead of the start of the new academic year, the Ministry of Health has reported that more than 550 schools have been inspected for mosquito breeding sites. The ministry said the heat has caused an increase in the mosquito population. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said fogging has been conducted at several institutions by vector control workers, and the activity will be continued through the first few weeks of the new school year. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has given a September deadline for a review of the protocols existing for reporting cases of sexual harassment in the health sector. He was speaking at his ministry's quarterly press conference on Tuesday following reports in the media on August 12, which reported the plight of junior doctors who have accused their seniors of sexual harassment. Dr. Tufton asked the chairman of SARA, the Southeast Regional Health Authority, Wentworth Charles, to look at the protocols with a view to strengthen them. He said while there had been 3 reported cases of sexual harassment in 2018, he does take these reports seriously. Allegedly, the board of the Edna Manley School for Visual and Performing Arts has voted to suspend Principal Dr. Nicolene Degrasse Johnson. However, up to late Tuesday, there was no confirmation about from the chairman of the board of directors, Marigold Harding, on whether Degrasse Johnson had been placed on suspension. The board voted majority decision reportedly to suspend Degrasse Johnson with immediate effect amid an ongoing investigation into allegations of sexual harassment at the college's Arthur Wynne Drive campus in St. Andrew. Degrasse Johnson has faced public criticism since reported allegations of sexual harassment in May made by female students against a male lecturer, as victims complained of the administration's efforts to sweep the matters under the rug instead of dispensing justice. Head of the Jamaica Constabulary Forces Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Assistant Commissioner of Police Bishop Gary Welsh, has been booted from the post. He has been replaced by Assistant Commissioner of Police Kevin Blake. Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson did not give any reason for the immediate reassignment of Welsh. It is unclear which of the JCF branches Welsh has been shifted to. The former force chaplain took the spotlight last week when he pardoned Dennis Dietrich after he was caught on video performing a dangerous stunt at a busy St. Andrew intersection. The decision to let him off the hook sparked public outcry. The JCF's Corporate Communications Unit issued a statement on Tuesday outlining that despite, quote, suggestions being erroneously aired in the public domain, the JCF's policy remains unchanged and continues to be guided by rule of law in a respectful manner, always seeking to be a force for good, end quote. A country's infrastructure reflects the level of development and impacts daily production. But what about the experience of living through the rehabilitation of main roads? Let's see what people have to say about roadworks being done across the corporate area in Jamaica today.
Good and bad. Well, we all need good road, yes, and new things, new upliftment things, place to build up and fix up. But it has stopped certain people business, so it's good and bad. When them done, when them finish, it a go bring good things and it'll look good, yes, but for now, it'll do bad.
Well, yes and no. Because it creates havoc and it is, in a sense, it's good and it's bad. Because if trying to get to work early, you have to get up like from probably about 5 or 4 just to beat the traffic, to reach a working time. And then another thing, he could start like do some road work, like probably with less traffic, and then take it to the next part, which would be better.
No, I don't think it's a good idea. Meaning the place is too congested with the traffic, with the dust. The disabled, the blind are in problems getting aid to cross the street or cross the road. Just the other day, I hear a lady make a complaint on the TV that they dump some dirt high above a home and children are playing it and tumble down the dirt. So too many rats can't dig a good hole. If the road is to be fixed one at a time, you can't be having it east, west, north and south at the same time.
No, I don't really think it's a smart move because it's got so much congestion and confusion on the roads, because you go in some places and it takes you hours and minutes to reach, and then one is not complete and then you start the next one, and then the next one is not complete and you start and the next one again. It's so hard. And then yes, we need the roads, but some people are suffering from the most necessary commodity, water. People don't have water for days, months now, and that is bad. And those people are paying water rate, and that is very bad. So I don't think doing so many roads at once makes any sense to me. But as it is what it is, the government is doing what it thinks is best. So I guess we just have to live with it.
Dollar on Tuesday, August 27, ended trading at Jamaican $137.16, up by 47 cents. That's according to the Bank of Jamaica's daily foreign exchange trading summary. The Canadian dollar ended trading at Jamaican $104.02, up from $103.79, while the British pound sterling ended trading at Jamaican $168.35, up from $165.45. In regional news, Barbados emerged virtually unscathed from a brush with Tropical Storm Dorian. Prime Minister Mia Mottley Tuesday gave the all-clear for the reopening of the island as a slightly weakened Tropical Storm Dorian made its way through the Lesser Antilles on Monday night, leaving behind minor damage in Barbados. The Prime Minister addressed the media Tuesday morning.
That this was early in the season for this, and we have to be conscious that we are not yet at November 30th, which is the end of the hurricane season. Indeed, we still have 3 full months to go. If ever there was a dry run in preparing ourselves, this effectively could be considered a dry run, and some may even say by the absence of the volume of rain that we had. But in addition to that, it allowed us to be able to mobilize and to focus on some areas, and I'm satisfied that that initial work done on Sunday by the government and the private operators and ordinary citizens made a significant difference to our state of readiness and therefore to the consequences that we would have faced.
Mottley urged the country to give thanks that they were largely spared, but warned against complacency.
Barbadians don't believe that you've wasted your money in buying the goods and the food items and all of those things, because we are still a good 93, 94 days out from the end of the season. In fact, the season ends when we sing God Bless Bim on Independence Day. Until such time, we have to be alert. And I ask persons, therefore, if you didn't get a chance to clean up around, you do so. if you acquired stuff that you didn't start.
103 people sought refuge in 38 shelters across the island, and Prime Minister Mottley said the shelter occupancy and preparedness of citizens showed the seriousness with which Barbadians took the hurricane season.
You can't live in the Caribbean and not be concerned. 2017 became a seminal year for us. In fact, that was the year that the notion of climate refugees became even more apparent. When we knew that people left Montserrat and had to be evacuated, we didn't relate to it because that's about volcanoes, and Bajans don't really know much about volcanoes. But what happened in Dominica and what happened in Barbuda and St. Martin and other countries in the region, I think shook up everybody. And it is fair to say that you would be foolish not to. For me, I keep making the point, I, as a young girl, went through Gilbert. So I don't play with hurricanes because I know that today could have easily have been a very different situation. The storm, they had size, it was directly on us. I mean, it defies rational explanation. Everything else about it ought to have suggested that Barbados should have had significant damage. And I want to thank my colleague prime ministers in the region, all of whom in the Eastern Caribbean have been reaching out all night. And some of them are in disbelief when I say that thus far, the reports of the damage are virtually negligible.
Meanwhile, over in St. Lucia, that country has also reopened following the passage of Tropical Storm Dorian. On Tuesday, the government lifted the measures it had put in place prior to the storm's approach. Dorian drenched the island with rain but caused no damage or injuries. Prime Minister Alan Chastity said that the public service had resumed normal operations. Acting Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, Dorian Gustav, gave a summation.
As of 10 a.m., the all clear was given upon the advice of the Met Services, which discontinued the tropical storm warning for St. Lucia from 8 a.m. this morning. The warning was discontinued, and our teams had to go out there to do the assessment, the first responders, to ensure that it was safe for persons to be out there. Upon receiving that report from our first responders, we then declared the all clear.
The Guyana Elections Committee, GCOM, announced on Tuesday that the ongoing house-to-house registration exercise will come to an end on Saturday. The decision was made by newly appointed chairman, retired Justice Claudette Singh, following a statutory meeting.
After the meeting, GCOM commissioners told reporters there was no vote taken and the chairman had simply announced her decision. Justice Singh said that based on the ruling of the High Court on August 14th, the house-to-house registration was neither unlawful nor unconstitutional, and the data garnered from that exercise must be merged with the existing National Register of Registrants database. GCOM says, cognizant of all that has transpired over the past few months, the Commission has an obligation to produce a credible official list of electors in the first instance and ultimately credible elections within the shortest possible time. The electoral body said it would also be moving to have an extensive claims and objections period before extracting the preliminary list of electors. GCOM added that it would continue to further deliberate on other matters of importance for holding elections, and the Secretariat will continue to implement operations activities, in particular training of polling day staff and procurement of non-sensitive materials.
Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, on Tuesday vehemently condemned a statement by a former official of the Strategic Service Agency who claimed that he had been given instructions by senior government ministers, including the Prime Minister, to dismiss all citizens of Indian descent from the security agency. Carlton Denny, a former director of intelligence, made the claims on the platform of the main opposition United National Congress on Monday night.
I am the person that they asked to fire all the East Indians in the SNC, and I told them, no, I am not doing that. This made the daily newspapers. I reminded Keith Rowley and the then Minister of National Security, Dillon, that in this country, every creed and race was fine and equal place.
The Prime Minister accused opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar and Denny of fermenting racial tension in the country in a bid to return to office following her defeat in the September 2015 general elections.
This is a categorical lie. And it is the most dangerous statement to be made by any officer, no matter how aggrieved he or she is, to make to the population of Trinidad and Tobago that the Prime Minister of the country would have issued such an instruction and that he, in righteous indignation, had to refuse to carry out that illegal action, and that is why he was dismissed from the SSA.
Further, the Prime Minister insisted that he didn't even know Denny.
I have never had any interaction whatsoever with Mr. Denny. I have checked the records this morning, had the records checked. In my capacity as Prime Minister, an office I came into on September 9th, 2015, to the end of the year of 2015, during that period, Mr. Denny served there for 4 months. I'm told now, the record shows that. Mr. Denny never attended any meeting of the National Security Council wherein he might have interacted with me. I have never, in my capacity as Prime Minister, spoken to Mr. Denny in any capacity, not on the phone, not in writing, not face-to-face. I don't know the man.
In sports, national junior record holder Brianna Williams has returned a positive test for the banned diuretic hydrochlorothiazide. Williams, who finished third in the women's 100 meters at the national senior trials, was expected to be part of Jamaica's team to the 2019 IAAF World Championships in Doha, Qatar. Williams' B sample has reportedly confirmed the presence of the substance. The tests were carried out at the National Senior Championships in June. Williams' team has pointed to a contaminated cold and flu medication, which she had declared on her testing protocol form as the source of the banned substance. Trinidad-based cricket analyst Colin Murray believes India has a psychological edge over the West Indies. The regional team lost the first test in Antigua by 318 runs and are hoping to level the series in Sabina Park in Jamaica. Here's more in this report.
Game for the West Indies, who went under to India in the opening test by 318 runs in Antigua on Sunday with 1 day to spare. This gives the Indians an unassailable 1-0 lead in the series, with 1 more to play in Jamaica on Friday. Local cricket analyst Colin Murray says it was a gutless performance by the Caribbean side. He says, quote, "When you look back at it, we were not aggressive enough and we are not mentally tough enough. In terms of Jason Holder's captaincy, he lacks the aggression that is needed for the team to put the opposition under pressure. Having said that, I think psychologically the Indians have the better of us because of their victories in the T20s and ODIs prior to the tests," unquote. Looking at Game 2, Murray feels the Windies are going to have their work cut out in trying to level the series. He says the Caribbean batters have a challenge on their hands when dealing with Jasprit Bumrah, Ishant Sharma and Mohammad Shami. The cricket analyst says, quote, "It's going to be very tough. Firstly, their attitude has to be right, and secondly, this question comes up. How do they get over the psychological barrier against the Indian pace attack? Added to that, most of the batsmen have to tighten up on their technique. I think we have to get the team selection right. At the moment, too much emphasis on the bowling is placed on Kimar Roach and Shannon Gabriel. The other bowlers, including Jason Holder, have to come good and give proper support to our opening attack," unquote. Regarding the combination for the Sabina Park Test match, Murray does want to see a couple of changes made to the starting 11. He was also unhappy with Shea Hope being sent into bat at number 6 and then 7 in the second innings in Antigua. He says, quote, "I would just like Shea Hope to go up the order earlier and blunt the Indian opening attack to make life more comfortable for the batsmen to follow. Miguel Cummins was ineffective with his pace in Antigua, which is why off-spinning all-rounder Rakeem Cornwall may well be given the opportunity to play at this level. Then we have to look at the keeping options. Should Shane Dowridge be fit for the Jamaica test, he must play, which means we can probably then drop Darren Bravo or Shimron Hetmeyer, unquote.
In the weather report, at 4 a.m., the center of Tropical Storm Dorian was located latitude 16.8 degrees north and longitude 63.9 degrees west. On the forecast track, the center of Dorian will pass over or near the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico later Wednesday. Maximum sustained winds are near 95 kilometers with higher gusts. Some strengthening is expected today, and Dorian is forecast to be near hurricane strength when it approaches the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. Tropical Storm Dorian is not a threat to Jamaica at this time. Meanwhile, at 4 a.m., the center of Tropical Storm Erin was located near latitude 32.5 degrees north, longitude 72.4 degrees west. Erin is moving towards the north-northwest near 9 kilometers per hour. The cyclone is expected to turn northward later today, then north-northeastward early Thursday morning, with an increase in forward speed. Maximum sustained winds remain near 65 kilometers per hour with higher gusts. Some slight strengthening is possible today and then gradually weaken on Thursday. Tropical Storm Erin is not a threat to Jamaica. However, the Meteorological Service will continue to monitor these weather systems. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thanks so much for watching.